At Midland Elementary in Tacoma, Washington, Robin Pachkowski feels her second grade students are not too young to begin understanding their own levels of engagement. The students are about to place a car on the highway indicating their engagement, compliance, or retreatism.
You helped me create our road over there on the window. You helped me put words to the different levels of engagement. We talked about retreating. We talked about what we would think in our heads. In a minute, what I'm going to ask you to do is to put your car on the road.
Before doing so, they had indicated what had made their PowerPoint project just completed engaging and what they wish was different. As the second graders place their cars, they are performing a significant metacognitive task as they determine their own level. On the right is engagement, in the middle, compliance, and on the left, retreatism. Concepts the second graders understand, but still struggle some with the vocabulary.
They clearly had retreating and they had engaging, but they didn't quite have the language in between, so that's where we're still working. They would say in between, but they didn't use the right words.
At Norwalk High School in Norwalk, California, social studies teacher Mike Garcia is wrapping up a unit on World War I. He has an engaging activity about propaganda.
When I create the assignments, it makes me aware that I'm trying to embed some of these because I want to create engaging work. I want to make it fun for my students because it's no fun when no one's having fun. And I don't have fun when they're not having fun, so it's a lot funner when everyone's involved.
The history students first study propaganda posters used by different World War I countries to recruit soldiers and win support for the war.
What's the objective of this poster? What's the purpose? Is it to recruit? Is it to finance the war? Is it to eliminate dissent? Is it to conserve resources? Or is it to get more participation in home front organizations? So what it says, tell that to the Marines, and then it gives you an address, right? So what do you think the purpose of this is for?
Maybe go join the Marines.
To join the Marines. So that's what? Which one is that?
Number 2. 1.
1, recruitment of soldiers.
Understanding the objectives of war propaganda, the history students are to create their own propaganda poster.
You're going to try to recruit soldiers into the war against terrorism or the war in Iraq, or you're going to try to help finance the war. Or you're going to try to eliminate dissent. Right now in this country, a lot of people might argue there's a lot of dissent. You can conserve resources. We're not really doing that very much, but if you want to try to conserve resources, you may do that, or participate in home front organizations. I want you guys to make me want to go join the war against terror. Want me to help finance the war. Okay, so that's your next task.
We're gonna put the 9/11 picture on it with the plane crashing, and we're gonna put it happened once, don't let it happen again. And we're just gonna promote, just to join the Marines and protect the country from terrorist attacks.
We're drawing a bus, telling people to conserve gas instead of drive their own car for the army, so they can need gas. It's telling them to conserve.
We're gonna draw like a, what do you call it?
I don't know, like a list of the dead from the 9/11.
Died from 9/11, and then we're gonna put.
Oh, you don't let them die without a cause. We're trying to eliminate dissent and unifying the country.
This lesson is a World War I standard for U.S. history, and it's bigger than just World War I because it also involves World War II, and it involves current day. When I was teaching, I was talking about the propaganda that's going on today, even in the war. It relates more to their lives, and I think that's another reason this assignment is just bigger than the little content standard that they have for our state. A lot of students are thinking deeper, and we'll use the posters as the final assessment to see if they really understood some of the concepts that I try to teach today, and if not, we'll go over them until they get them.
Social studies and science teacher David Turpak works with Iris Pastel, language arts teacher, in a combined science writing project. Using novelty that the Brady Middle School students can relate to, they introduce a lab called Snot Snot, or The Birth of a Booger. Motivated by the lab, the students will be asked to write a story. Mrs. Pastel models a story written by William Joyce.
I wrote my first story for a school contest in 4th grade. It was called Billy's Booger. About this booger from outer space who was a whiz at math. When he came to Earth, he lived in the nose of a boy named Billy.
Bemused and amused with the grotesque nature of the story, the students are primed to make snot.
Emma, would you please read the introduction for us? The snot or mucus that constantly coats your throat and sometimes leaks from your nose is made of polymer molecules that are long and stretchy, which is why snot is such great stuff.
Okay, hang on one second, Emma. That word that's in parentheses up there?
Yeah.
That's mucus.
Okay.
That's the proper scientific term for snot or boogers.
Okay. Because glue is also made of polymers, it's the perfect ingredient for fake snot.
With the proper ratio of glue and other ingredients, the activity of making a polymer that has the consistency of snot is not only completely engaging,
That's awesome! Oh, that's so cool!
but helps the students learn to correctly follow instructions for a lab.
Okay, keep adding your borax solution and stirring that until it's not lumpy anymore.
Some didn't follow the directions as carefully, but had an engaging experience nonetheless. The students are well prepared for the next activity to write their own stories. This is from A Moment in Time of Cindy Snot by Courtney Zimmerlin. I saw the nurse getting a Kleenex for Billy. By then, I knew it was over. I was going to be spending the rest of my life on a cold, scratchy Kleenex in a small garbage can. Before the nurse got to Billy, he sucked me up with all my friends. In a sigh of relief, I relaxed back in my home. The adventure was over.
We're going to start a debate between Jason and Daniel.
An authentic activity is conducted by Barbara Miller at Moreland Hills Elementary in Pepper Pike for her kindergarten students, whose parents regularly vote as citizens of a democratic society. The students are going to vote for a bus driver. The two candidates are high school debate students.
What we want you to do today is listen to a debate between Jason and Daniel on what the rules would be if you were going to elect a bus driver, the perfect bus driver for you. So Daniel and Jason are going to be candidates running for the best bus driver at Moreland Hills.
Hello, I'm Daniel Litt, and I'd like to be your bus driver for the next 4 years.
Hi, I'm Jason Wu, and I'll be running for your bus driver, and I hope you'll pick me.
I would make sure that people have assigned seats so that there's no fighting about where you'd want to sit. People wouldn't be able to have candy or do other dangerous things that might endanger your safety.
I believe that there are issues which are deemed important by the other side of tonight's debate, which I don't think are that important, like assigned seating, like candy. I don't think these are very serious things. I don't think that they hurt me as a bus driver or they hurt my ability to drive the bus. And so I would allow such practices to continue.
After the debate, the children are encouraged to ask questions.
Jason, what would be the age for the back seats?
Age. Do you have to be a certain age to sit at the back of the bus?
No, I don't believe in age limits for the back of the bus. I think if you want to sit in the back of the bus, then that's fine.
Daniel, could you bring real animals on the bus or just stuffed animals?
Stuffed animals are perfectly fine. Real animals, they can be dangerous sometimes.
As the students vote, they experience firsthand the joy and responsibility of living in a free and democratic society.
Room D100 has voted Daniel Litt as our next bus driver.
Ms. Smith recently completed an innovative mathematics activity that is now going to be reviewed by her peers. Superintendent Dr. Steve McCammon is conducting a descriptive review protocol of Ms. Smith's work with her team of third grade teachers and their principal, Julia Grubiak.
As you know, we do a series of protocols. The one we're going to do today is called the descriptive review. And I just want to remind you, it's simply intended to be a disciplined conversation about a piece of student work. And our goal is to give Elaine feedback not only on how would the students be engaged and what might be some challenges in that, but also about what design qualities we see in this lesson, and maybe some that as her colleagues we could offer a suggestion to maybe take the lesson to the next level and engage even more kids.
As they examine the student work, the teachers surmise what the lesson is about and consider questions they might have about the lesson and the dice.
It's a game.
It's a
sort of game.
Very good.
Looks like it has to do with math.
Right. Very structured.
It looks like it's lined to maybe a math lesson.
It's dealing with patterns, number patterns.
The first thing that always comes to mind for me is what was the goal of the lesson? What did Elaine intend for the students to achieve as they completed that?
Was there a lesson taught before?
Did they work independently, in groups, or in partners?
After sufficient analysis and questioning, Ms. Smith explains how the activity worked and the learning it provided.
It's called the roll of the dice. My students worked in partners, and they each had a game board, but they shared the dice. And this particular student and his partner would take turns rolling the dice, and in this case he would have had a 1 and a 4. He could use that as one group of 4 or 4 groups of 1 and find a place on this multiplication table to write in that product. So he could have written his 4 here, or he could have written his 4 here.
I would assume that was a very engaging lesson for kids. Could you talk a little bit about why you think that's so?
I think that, especially this year, I have kids that are very much into affiliating with one another. They really like activities that produce work that they get to do together.
I wondered if the team could take a minute and talk about some particular design qualities you see in this and how they're evidenced. And remember, after we do that, then we're going to talk about, as great a lesson as this is, what might be some what-ifs or how-abouts about some other design qualities.
After identifying the design qualities, Ms. Smith is allowed to summarize.
I had thought about adding the 3rd die, which I think would be really fun, and they would appreciate that challenge, so I might try that.
Teachers appreciate the fact that the superintendent participates in the protocols, as does the principal.
Protocols are done at grade level meetings, with teachers rotating responsibilities in those meetings. Sometimes they're the presenter of the work, sometimes they will be the facilitator, and sometimes they'll just be the participant, as we all were today. And within those meetings, I try to get to as many as possible and be part of those roles as well.